Hello guys, here is Dennis, and today with Fernando Ribeiro, I'm the legendary singer of legendary band Moonspell. Hello Fernando, how are you? How was your
Hi.
day so far?
Well, hi, everything is cool. Greetings from Portugal. Thanks for having me in your channel. Um, yeah, I mean, busy. It's the daily grind of a struggling band. Just keeping up with our project. It's very bad weather in Portugal, so
Oh,
it's nice time for interviews. Yeah, it's Easter time. I don't know if it's
uh,
because of the religious holiday, but here it's always really bad weather. I remember when I was a kid and we had to go to the cemetery and to the church for Easter, and it was always like raining, the cats and dogs. But all is fine, just working a little bit, and then going tomorrow. We have a show on the Holy Friday. It's a part of a theater tour that we're doing with Moonspell, or more an acoustic shape. So yeah, everything is cool. Yeah.
hmm Um, the main topic of our interview today is a release of your Under the Moonspell and the Early Years collection box. But before we start to talk about it, let us go to the time before Moonspell or even Morbid God. I always wanted to ask you, do you remember the day you decided to start a band? What was the trigger for that?
Well, I don't remember exactly the day. It was more of a decision between friends, but I remember the trigger very well. Well, I started listening to metal. I was born in '74, so '85 with 11, 12, I started listening to hard rock and heavy metal. The regular bands, Maiden, Whitesnake, Metallica, Slayer. And then I started to go deeper and deeper into the underground music. Obviously, there was all these in between bands like King Diamond. I was a huge fan of King Diamond and Mercyful. I still am. Yeah, I saw your shirt. Bathory, Celtic Frost, Root from Czech Republic, Tamael. So we started off by having a small fanzine called Darkness Din, and I mean, it was different times without YouTube, without internet. So we had to wait long months to get the fanzine done. And but I remember we had a great experience with that because we had interviews with Bathory, with Sarcophago, with Paradise Lost, with many other bands like Haborans that turned out to be Amorphis, etc. And we developed a really cool and enthusiastic network of contacts. And we got a lot of extreme metal bands, black metal, death metal, especially also some thrash metal. And we didn't have, in our opinion, a Portuguese band that sounded like that. And we were not ashamed, but we thought that we could have a band that was like black to dark, occult, and there was nothing like this in Portugal. I mean, there was great bands in Portugal, but people in Portugal in the bands they were more trying to emulate and to be the Portuguese Sepultura or the Portuguese Metallica or the Portuguese Slayer, and we didn't want that. So, as there was not this band available, we decided without knowing anything about music, without instruments, without anything on our as a background, we decided to create a band, and that's why and how Morbid God back then was created, was to have a band that we could send everywhere, and people were like, "Wow, this is up to date. This is black metal. This is contemporary," and they're not trying to sound like anyone else, but trying to fit into a scene. Yeah, that was why.
Okay, cool. Um, Anno Satanae came out in 93 and Under the Moonspell 94. Can you tell us something about the creations of creation of these two records?
Well, it was very complicated because I think we had nice ideas, we had a nice concept, but we couldn't really play our instruments. And also, Portugal was very complicated. While that in other countries like Germany, Poland, even in Spain, you had already producers that respected metal and studios that were specialized in extreme metal, underground metal. Here in Portugal, the panorama was really different. I mean, we went on studio, everybody made fun of our lyrics, of our music. So it was quite hard to come across with that. Anyway, that lack of structure was compensated by a really great enthusiasm because first and foremost we were musical fans. We had just met Thorsten from Battery in 1990 here in Lisbon. It was very inspirational to us, so we decided to go on and form a band. So it was quite tricky. I remember writing "Gold on Fire," for instance, the first song of Anno Satanae, together with our guitar player back then, um, Mantus Duarte. We all had these amazing names. I was called Lanmusuyar.
Mhm.
But in the end of the day, I was just Fernando. um, so I was just writing the lyrics, and I was like screaming or shouting or whatever I did, and we were in his bedroom on his parents' place, and he had an acoustic guitar, and he was doing the rhythm guitar, and then he was whistling. It was the God on Fire melodic guitar. So yeah, so it was 20 times, and everything about this demo and Under the Moonspell was a bit complicated. Big ideas, lack of structure, lack of musicianship, but it seemed like we got a really cool response from the our underground peers with the Serpent Angel of Morbid Gods, and then Anno Satanae, and then we went to Under the Moonspell, and we were already like over the top back then. You know, we wanted orchestra instruments, we wanted a violin, we were very influenced by Into the Pandemonium by Celtic Frost. So it was like a kind of a circus on the studio. And it came out. I really loved the songs and the thing. But when I listen to Under the Moonspell, I cannot, from '94, I cannot um, come across that production, which is really bad. Some things you can hear. That's why we re-recorded everything in 2007 in Anno
Mhm.
Satanae, also to bring some justice into the song. Yeah.
Mhm. Mhm. Um, who was the famous singer on Under the Moonspell back in 94? You remember
Now
that?
the myths come down. Obviously, we said it was a soprano from Portugal, but
Uh,
she was just our guitar player's aunt, really, and she
mm,
could sing a little bit, but she wasn't famous. It was those times, you know, everything because there was no internet, there was no fact checking.
yeah, yeah.
People dreamt about it. I thought that Battery recorded in a big room in some orchestral building, but no, they recorded their epic albums in the garage,
Mm,
you
mm,
know, and there was no one famous there, just Quarthen playing all the instruments and playing computer drums, etc. back in the early days. So she wasn't like a really famous back then. It was just like a little white lie
mm.
that we said probably someone said, probably not me, that she was one of the biggest sopranos in Portugal, but she wasn't. She was just our guitar player's aunt, and you know, and she was like doing the best she could on that crazy part of Tenebraro Oratorium. Yeah.
Yeah, it sounds still great. And who was 2000, in 2007 the famous singer on the re-recorded version?
Well, that was already a friend of us that she has more of a metal past. She's a bit more famous. That's called Carmen,
Ah,
and she has a band. She had many bands like gothic style. So I invited her to re-record the vocals. And back then, she was in a band called Ave Fairy that I think are no more. But she could do. She was one of the best and more forthcoming figures here when it comes to females in the Portuguese metal scene,
mhm,
and she's great, and also she's a witch. I think she actually left music to go to a more spiritual world. So that was she who recorded
mhm.
all the female vocals on that under Satanae record.
Yeah, okay. I asked before, I always thought that was Birgit Zacher, but that was
No,
not
Brigitte,
Birgit.
Brigitte is great. Brigitte, like Brigitte, even though she's famous within people that connect with this stuff. She was my vocal teacher for
Oh,
a while, and many other musicians that were in Century Media back then. And she's an amazing singer. You
she's
know, I
great.
have
Yeah.
a great experience with her. Ravenclaws, like on Vampiria, when we said we want this to end like with a scream, like she fell off a cliff, the Vampiria character, and she first take she gave us like this scream of Vampiria that we still use it live, and we were like, it was she was like sorry, someone was calling me on the mobile, I don't know why. But she was like first take, and she was like, is this good? And I said, yeah, it's very good, and it's going to be legendary.
Mhm. Um, okay. The flyer for Anno Satanae says true South European black metal.
Yeah.
Was that a kind of a response to famous true Norwegian black metal?
Hmm. It was, and it's a long story if you have the time. So um I was, and I'm still am, a fan of all black metal. For me, black metal is born with two bands: Venom, because they invented the title, and I was already listening to them, especially on the black metal album that War with Satan, etc., and Bathory. All the Norwegian, Scandinavian black metal, their prototype, their matrix, it's Bathory. The harsh vocals, the riffs, the atmosphere, a little bit of Celtic Frost too, but Bathory. So I had these influences too, but I wasn't from Norway. I'm from Portugal, from the south of Europe. So things here run a bit um, different too. And that's our music was more less scream, more colorful. Because here in Portugal, we had the Muslim heritage back in the day. We have the culture, the music of Lisbon, the fado, the Oriental culture. So we decided to put that into our music. Write lyrics also about the Lusitanian kingdom that was pre-Portugal. It was our pagan kingdom, like our Celts, if or Celts. I don't know how to say it, but and so we made these all and call it Southern black metal because we thought, and I still think, that nobody owned the black metal term. If anybody owns it, it's Venom because they invented it. And all of a sudden, there was this outburst of violence, fascism, Nazism, xenophobia in within the black metal, and I was very surprised and negatively impressed. So much that when Moonspell could leave black metal, we did. We didn't want to be connected with that stuff. And the same people that we were writing with, like some years ago in the 90s, like Count Grishnak, he sent me the first Burzum tape, and I was like, wow, this is amazing. Other bands like Emperor,
Mm.
etc. Some of these band members started to talk shit about everyone else in the interviews, starting to be completely racist against us, and we still got some death threats on letter because we had the PO box with letters full of swastikas, calling us black people. You're not Southern black metal. That doesn't exist. Black metal is Norwegian. It was a big mess, honestly, and just all because we wanted to say there's a difference. There's a difference. We are from the south, so why can't we use southern black metal while you use Norwegian black metal? We're not saying you suck. We're just saying we're different, and we wanted to have a different intake on black metal. And I listen to black metal probably before you even started to make a band. So it was quite harsh for us. It was a very sad period for us,
Mm.
and I was never happy with a certain whitening that they made out of black metal. Once I was in Inferno Fest, and there was some band, I don't remember the name, that went on stage with the swastika flag. And I mean, metal from the 70s, even though it's extreme, it has never been so violent as it was in the 90s in Norway, especially with all the church burning, with all the killings, with all the prison. I was always very shocked about it, and I still think that had nothing to do with music.
Yeah.
And I know some of the characters there, like Elhammer, for instance, and these or Attila, and they love life and they love to have fun and they love rock and roll. They love to drink. They love to party. So it has been quite hard on themselves um, too. So yeah, it was the period where Norway. I mean, they are the capital of black metal, hands down. It's not Lisbon, it's Oslo,
Mhm.
But I think that all that violence, all that racism was uncalled for, really. And they were trying to dominate the scene. They were trying to make almost an invasion and a pure breed of heavy metal. And I never took it lightly. I always said, fuck off. You didn't invent this. Okay, we're from Portugal. I met Portland, for instance. You haven't.
Mhm.
So I always had lots of trouble with that, and that kind of got me cold with black metal. I still listen to black metal. I love Garia from Portugal, Craft, Order, Wolf in the Throne Room, some other black metal bands from more contemporary times. But I never liked the black metal Norwegian rhetoric back in the day. I think it was very hurtful to the scene, and I mean I don't. Miss those times, and I don't um, embrace any personality cult of people like Count Grishnak or whatever. No, I think they are uncalled for in the scene,
Mhm.
definitely.
Mhm. Yeah, I agree absolutely. But was there any reaction from Norway, especially to Moonspell, at the time?
Yeah, I mean, it was quite strange because we still sold demos to Norway. The other day I was with Shagrat from Dimo Borgir, and he was
Mhm.
very young back then. And he has one of the most successful black metal bands ever because he never got involved in this shit too. They were all Dimo Borgir was all about the music
Yeah.
and about the aesthetics. So he told me that I still have a tape from you. I bought it in '93. I was like, what the hell? And I told him, has it arrived? Because some of the mail didn't arrive back then, some of the posts. So it's been in and out. It's been mixed. We had all this reaction from the black metal intelligentsia, but we still had fans that didn't. There were many in Norway that still bought secretly the southern black metal. Nowadays I'm friends with many people from Shagrat to Gal, who is a gentleman. We toured together with Gorgoroth, and he's an
Mhm.
amazing guy, an amazing band. Gal's weird now. Abbath. So we all laugh about this, but believe me, it was a hard nut to crack. I remember first time we played in Norway with Wolfart in Oslo. We were touring with Morbid Angel and Immortal. So we went on stage with Wolfart. We had nothing else. A very celebrated, as you say, legendary album. And there was just two gothic girls dancing to Vampiria, and the rest of the crowd was like a zombie wall, pale, black metal, and no clapping, no fun, no nothing, you know. And I was like, wow, this is really like serious stuff. So I went back to the van and I crossed with Abbath, and Abbath was very nervous because even between themselves, Immortal was not the Oslo band, so they were not true enough for the Oslo people. I don't know anything about that. I'm from
Okay.
Portugal. So it was like, oh, these guys are not going to like us. I say, well, you're black metal. You have battles in the north, which is you have Elhammer on the drums. So I think it's going to be all right. And it wasn't. It was a bit better than for Moonspell, but even Morbid Angel with Domination, and even David Vincent had a black metal shirt. I don't remember from whom. People were very cold. And 2 weeks before, these black metalers from Norway, the angry ones, they broke all the windows and the Paradise Lost tour bus. It was in '95, and Paradise Lost was such a huge band, and it was sold out. So it was like complicated times. But when we came back in '96 with the Religious and Samael first and then Typo Negative, we were like rock stars. You know, everybody was chasing us, everybody asking for an encore. There was mosh. Things changed from 95, 94, 95 to 96, like from night to day, you know. And I was like, nowadays it's big fun to play in Norway. We played festivals, we played packed shows, we played small clubs, and we have our fan base over there. It's not the country that we play the most, but I think the black metal etched was buried, and now it's more about the music. Some people still have that, I don't know, that feeling like they have for old Nazi Germany, like, you know, some kind of adoration, but there are very few these days. And I think Norway has always produced and finally integrated black metal in their national culture in a proper way through the music and through the art. Yeah.
hmm Yeah. Another question. 30 years ago, Crown of Thorns magazine asked you if Portuguese public were ready for Moonspell. Your answer was that Portuguese audience are not prepared yet and will not understand such mystical, spiritual, and deep band like Moonspell. And what would be the answer to that today?
Well, things have changed a lot. You know, actually, back then we entertained the thought of never playing Portugal. Portugal was, you know, small-minded country back then. There was no black metal. Everybody made fun of us, or Feeling Ignorante Infernalium. It was another band, or Decade. We had to have this close, tight circle together, because most metal famous musicians in Portugal, they wanted the beer, they wanted the girls, and that's fine. They wanted to be the Portuguese Metallica, and I have no problem with that. But like the Norwegians, they were trying to stop our existence, and we had a very big problem with that. So we decided for quite a while not to play in Portugal, and still to the day, Moonspell, it's better received outside than in our hometown. But that's something that happens to a lot of bands. Every band is nervous when they play their own country, because there's always these domestic problems. But I have to say, the first time we played ever in Portugal was in '93. I didn't want to play. Uh, but one of our old guitar players said, well, we're going to play a fantastic show, going to be very mystical. We're going to have dry ice, etc. And 2 days before the show, we had nothing, not even PA, not nothing lights. So I decided to start the other side of me, which is a person that solves problems like a manager, like we do ourselves for Moonspell. So I called up some PA company. We played the show to this unwilling crowd, and then we played from Under the Moonspell. We played from Anno Satanae. We played Morbid Gods, and we had the outro. You know, when we come out, that was a poem by Alistair Crowley and keyboards. It was called Hymn to Lucifer, and then we recorded it with Demonarch. So I was there. So I had a white shirt and the vest. I didn't have corpse paint. I just had this big irreligious eye painted on myself, like some kind of Crowleyan stuff. That was more into complicated stuff, not the basic satanic stuff. And people clapped, you know. And I've been in a lot of hundreds of underground extreme metal shows in Portugal, and they never clapped. They clapped like in a theater. So that's where I started to be. I want to play live, you know, because this is a really genuine feeling that I won't get anywhere else, not on school, not on the job. And then we went to Germany, you know, with Central Media, etc. For quite a long time, we didn't play in Portugal. When we came back to Wolfart, we were the talk of the town. for the good and the bad. Other bands were jealous. Nobody talked with us. Our friends turned their back on us. Some people say, which is a rumor still in Portugal, that we didn't record Wolfart. There was someone other band, and believe me, it was us because it's full of mistakes. Valdemar did a great job, but people were proud about us, and that feeling grew a lot since. Let me just connect my computer. That feeling grew tremendously to Moonspell being number one in the charts in Portugal, playing arenas. So it took a while, but I think they're more than prepared. And nowadays, I have to say, they are one of the crowds in the world that appreciate us the most, uh, because they like the music, hopefully, but they also like the idea of going to a festival. And many people tell me that. I'm not making it up myself. And breaking the ice with Moonspell. So where are we from? Portugal. They are at Summer Breeze or Vaken. Well, I love Moonspell. I love them too, even if they don't love. But I have to say, the biggest hate, the biggest haters, the problems, the backstabbing, the most we had also came from Portugal. Portugal is this kind of country in South Europe. We're very fierce around here, and we have a lot to learn when it comes to empathy
Mm.
and community. Yeah.
I think we have in Germany the same problem. I think, for example, Rammstein, they have the most haters in Germany. So I
Yeah.
think so. I know. But yeah, it's so.
I don't
Um,
know, but believe me, I wish I had the German scene here in Portugal with all these bands. Of course, except for Rammstein, Creators, Sodom, you know, so many bands, so
mhm,
many bands, Morgoth,
yeah.
so many bands you guys had. And also, it's true, the first country, even before Portugal, that helped us and that really enjoyed our music was Germany. Of course, we were in a German label that helped, but Germany was the first country in the world to wake up for bands like Moonspell, Tiamat, Samael, especially thanks to the work of Century Media. They did a great job. Bands that, in their own way, they made a little revolution on the heavy metal scene. Because for me, heavy metal, the late 70s and the 80s, were bands like Maiden, Priest, Slayer, Metallica. They came up and they did the original stuff. And when we came up as a band, everything was done. Even black metal was done already by Venom. And we had to reinvent it. And I think that Germany was the country that mostly welcomed that reinvention. Nowadays, it's different. And I'm a bit concerned with all this war, pirate metal. Of course, it's entertaining, but that makes the life of bands like us very hard because we don't have that level of entertaining. I cannot go with fur and hammers,
Yeah.
and we to the stage. And even though people like it and they are, people are the bosses, the fans are the bosses. I think there should be room for us as well. And sometimes it's a fight. It's a fight for survival, really.
Mhm. Okay, Fernando. Last question because we don't have any time anymore. Okay, tomorrow is Easter, Good
Yeah,
Friday.
Good Friday. Yeah.
Do you celebrate such a holidays, and what is your opinion on religion today?
Well, that will be another interview. My opinion in religion. I think I with all my studies and all my thinking, I divide religion and faith. Faith is something that you cannot explain and that you have to respect. Religion, it's the destruction of faith. It's the killing, it's the wars, the terrorism. So the rituals like Easter, going to the church, or not eating meat on a Good Friday are completely meaningless these days, compared to the harm that religion nowadays, not Christianity. We had our times with the Inquisition and everything bad that came out with the imposition of Christianity that threw off the balance of the world. Now we have a new problem with the Muslim religion, which is also basically a religion of peace, but that is bringing trouble and trouble to the world. So I must say I'm not a fan of religion. I think people should believe something. Satan, Allah, gods, whatever, Donald Duck. It's up to them. It's their choices. But they should not, and for this interview, they should not try to impose these on others, and they should not try to make their truth the absolute truth, because that's very dangerous in the world. Here in Portugal, nobody gives a shit. Nobody almost goes to the church. Their god is money and the iPhone. They have replaced the old gods by modern artifacts, which tells a lot about the Portugal. The Pope was here and they had millions of people, but also because he's a social figure, and people wanted to feel holy for a while. But I don't see, a world without faith, it's something sad. A world without religion will be a possibility of us getting along better together. And to religion, I also add politics. I don't think that nowadays anyone smart would think that politics are for the greater good. No, politics and religion are for the good of some at the expense of many others. And that's what I believe. Of course, I do not celebrate Easter. Anyway, in Portugal, celebrations, it's about eating some stuff and drinking and partying hard. Most people are not going to the church, and they not celebrate the religious meanings of these holidays. That's completely cut more than a half in Portugal and other Catholic countries.
Okay, and maybe in the end, short answer. What is about new music?
Well, in short, it will be 2025, 2026. Making new music is this painful process for Moonspell. Sometimes I don't know if bands should go on making new music or celebrate the legacy. I like to make new music, but will the fans like it as well? So we need time. We are not going to make an album to make another tour, to make another touring cycle. We need time. We talk with the label, we talk with the agency, and we want to make a very good album, a very good Moonspell album with great music, great ideas. But for that, we'll need time to perfect our ideas, and we don't want to rush anything. Thanks for asking. I hope people are interested, but we're not going to have a new album before September, October 2025 or 2026. Let's see if the muses helps us, to create great music.
Okay, great. Okay, Fernando, thank you for your time.
Thank you very
And
much. I'm so sorry about the delay again, but
no
all good.
problem. I wish you all the best for the future and great show tomorrow.
Thank you.
I'm sure we will see us in Summer Breeze Festival.
Yeah, Summer Breeze, and we also
Yeah.
touring with Art Tranquility
Yes,
in October and November. So we will plenty of chances of seeing you in Germany.
That's great news. Yeah. So thank you, Fernando. Thank you
Thank you.
very
Thank you.
much. And yeah, see you next time.
Have a great one. Thanks.
You
Bye-bye.
too. Bye.